This week, we welcome Guillaume Jaulerry, founder, CEO, and president of O Company, with us to discuss re-architecting systems for privacy. In our second segment, we'll cover this week's leadership and communications articles. Business Security Weekly starts now.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
It's the show where we explore the business of security to improve the security of business. Your trusted source for actionable insights on leadership, communication, and innovation. Get ready for Business Security Weekly.
Ransomware, supply chain attacks, 0 days. Cyber threats don't wait, and neither should your business. With ThreatLocker, you're not just reacting to threats, you're stopping them before they start. Our Zero Trust endpoint protection locks down your environment with pinpoint control over what's allowed to run and what's not. No guesswork, no blind spots. Just proactive, built-for-now security that keeps your business moving. Want to see how a true default deny strategy works? Head over to securityweekly.com/ThreatLocker and take the first step towards shutting the door on threats before they even knock.
Welcome to Business Security Weekly. This is episode 414, recorded on September 22nd, 2025. I'm Adrian Sanabria, standing in for Matt Alderman, and joining me today is Mr. Jason Albuquerque. How are you doing, Jason?
I'm doing great, Adrian. Great to have you on the show, man. Hey, listen, it wouldn't be a BSW show without a little bit of NFL news. Every time during football season, we do a little NFL news. So, Matt's Browns actually won a game. It's impressive. You know, they beat the Packers 13-10. Summer's team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, beat my Pats. I'm heartbroken about that. But tonight, you know, we have a great game. It's Lions Ravens, and then I got to give a shout out. So Liam Cohen, he's the coach of the Jaguars. He's 2-1 this season. They just beat the Texans. He's from Rhode Island. He's a local guy. So I got to give a shout out to Liam. Congratulations to him. He's a first-year coach, so good for him.
Yeah, it was funny. I was joking. The 1 week I had some knowledge of what was going on in the NFL. I was not guest hosting, and that was the Bills come back against the Ravens with a 41-year-old kicker.
Yep. Yeah, it was a good game. That was a really, really good game.
Yeah, that was dramatic. That was intense to watch.
No.
All right, quick announcement, and then we'll jump into the interview here. You can join us for InfoSec World 2025, October 27th through 29th in sunny Lake Buena Vista, Florida at Disney's Coronado Springs Resort. Workshops run before and after the conference, October 25th through 26th and October 29th through the 30th. You can save money on your ticket. You can save 25% with code ISW25-SW at securityweekly.com/ISW2025. All right, and the topic for today is re-architecting systems for privacy as AI agents force us to rethink how we do security. Guillaume has been focused on building solutions that provide a local personal solution to using cloud and SaaS-based products for some time now. He's currently the CEO and president of O Company, a company he founded around 8 years ago. Is that correct, Guillaume?
Yes, nearly, a bit more than 8 years ago now.
Welcome to the show. Yeah, so
thank you so much.
Yeah, tell me a bit more about the journey here. What led you to want to build a solution like this? To go, at a time, 8 years ago or so, when everybody was migrating to the cloud and SaaS services, Chromebooks became a thing, right? Like everything is in the cloud. What prompted you to go in the other direction?
I started to have this idea just because one day I received an email asking me to have my information into the cloud and pay more into it. So this is how I started when I got struck by it. And I say, why do you need my data? Why do all those industry need the data of everyone, from businesses to personal data to all what's happened in the company, or even as a normal person. From that, I say we need to rebuild what actually was done a long time ago by the 70s, 80s, and 90s, where tech was absolutely gorgeous in terms of invention, creativity, systems, and everything was so well made. So from that, I saw the amount of problems that you have today, even for CISO today in different industries, how much they need to secure all the data, how much even the normal consumers, your own privacy today in the digital world doesn't exist because technology wasn't developed through that. And today we all what we do in the field of security to keep people private has now gone off the rail just because we want to acquire data. And that's the mother. So from that, I say, hey, why can I get a mini computer on a wrist? And I invented my first patent and all my system to go after that and give the possibility to the people to own the data. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah. So you had mentioned, that we've hit this threshold, right? This threshold where dependency on cloud becomes a strategic liability for people, for organizations. And like Adrian mentioned, for the last 10 years, we've had executive teams, boards, CEOs saying, you want to know what? I want to change my CapEx model to operational expense. I want to be able to shift the way we're doing business and change to more of an OpEx model, right? Because it lowers upfront costs. It gives us better flexibility. You get some tax deductions from it. Talk to me a little bit about why we've hit that threshold, what that fundamental shift means for business leaders, and what can they do to start really changing that thought process?
Well, just an example. Do you remember in France during the Olympic Games, someone forget his USB key in the security, or many leaders in some aspects, they got their running application and so on and so on. And suddenly everybody knows where's the president or where's the prime minister in Europe. And in many aspects, we saw the problematic, all that. So why I just say that because we have shifted the whole technology, all what we do in terms of hardware and software, to acquiring data. That was a business model that was created back in 2000, roundabout. Okay, some people can tell me different date, but when internet came out, everything started to shift. And one of the creator of the cloud was Citrix. They invented the cloud, which basically is a computer far away. It gives a lot of conveniences, of course, for a lot of industries, but you lose the control of your own data. So those are multiple aspects: intellectual property, security data, very sensitive information. It doesn't need to be big, but even small companies with their account liability that are put in many others industry, we need to be able to stop this to happen. All the technology has been involved around a lot of VCs too, and the competition into the market space, because we never forget a lot of CEOs have a lot of confidence in their CISOs and their team into it. But the CEOs need to be able to disconnect from what the market is always offering, because we have a monopolistic market. Never forget that. So for a lot of industry, you want to find something different in the market, you don't have it. Or you need to go to external hard drives and many solutions that maybe doesn't offer to the consumers or to the own professional people enough flexibility to use the system. Now, if we shift back to something more disconnected and more in prime, which it's going to happen because, since data sensibility are sensible to everyone. Nobody wants their private life to be all around. Here we are around, but nobody wants, even at a professional level, all that around. So when our hardware started to connect with the software, when the software started to develop, when we started to have application, when we started to build more and more connectivity into each system, you can't have everything in the same bag. It's impossible. You want to control stuff in everything, even us in our life, control or have a certain hand in what we need takes time. Maybe it takes a teeny bit more money, but that way we can separate what we really need to connect with everyone and have a lot of work together. Yes, it's important maybe, but all the rest of sensitive information like finance, like intellectual property, like even anything that you have, even the communication on your phone, we talk about computer, but all our phone, basically there is no phone that gives enough privacy because the operating system has whatever application that you have, the operating system, the hardware and all the firmware downside, all the control. We always say in the industry, oh, it's the software they're going to develop. And no, the hardware now, and Adrian, you say a great thing about AI, with the development of AI inside our all our devices, now you have a CPU, a GPU, and then you have an AI chipset. So even if you say, oh, I want to use a VPN, or you want to start to build a proxy servers and you want to have a different network that you want to have, today it's impossible. You need to rebuild all that back to up and build hardware and technology that really gives you privacy. So I think we need to change that. And we don't talk about the legal aspect, that it's an enormous problem. Every technology that you buy, cloud providers, even any system that you have in the computer field, how many of them give you a guarantee? For example, when you buy a car or product, if the product is out of the warranty, you have the company gives you the warranty. You break something breaks before it, you have the warranty. In the technology industry or cloud industry, you don't have that. So all your data are spread around. They are all in those systems. You have any fail in it, you don't have any control. They're not yours. And your company as a business, and you as a CISO in the security world, if you can't get enough control into it, it's impossible for you to secure a whole environment from big companies, but even us, some people create network in their house because it goes to every technology level. So it's a very, that's why I think we are shifting, and now people are seeing that the market, like iPhone, can I say word Apple iPhone? I can't, yeah. Okay, well, good, sorry. all those companies today that are in this industry, you don't have any more technology that gives you all that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up. And as you talk through it, I asked it for a specific reason, because I'm starting to see a trend with some of our clients where they've been full bore cloud, folks who made that transition over the last 10 years to become full cloud companies, right? With all of their workloads up in the cloud, whether it's AWS or Azure or GCP. And then a decade later, they're starting to realize, wait a minute, I'm going to need more processing power. I'm going to need my data closer to the end user. I need stricter security policies and controls around my data, because now I'm going to have internal AI engines. And they're starting to shift back to a hybrid approach. That's why we're seeing traction being gained with edge compute, right? We're seeing like Azure Edge and things of that nature, where you're starting to bring back some of those workloads back on-prem. Now with your product, is that more of a consumer product, or is there a business enterprise use for your product as well? Talk to me a little bit about that, because it was interesting reading through, the product that you have.
The product's for everyone, because we have all the same problem from business, personal, but even to the government side. That's what I was saying. The problem is that we don't have any technology that gives a real solution to be private. So that's why. Sorry, can you repeat? Sorry, I just
So I mean, I read through your website, and it's a wearable mini server basically, right? As you have the ability to store data on. It looked like a watch, right? Almost like one of your smartwatches. And I looked at it from a couple of different aspects, right? Risk versus reward. So I sit back and say, all right, it's great. The end user can control their data. They have 100% control of the data. But then I take a CISO standpoint and I say, wow, that's a lot of distributed data across, let's say I have 2,000 employees, right? I have 2,000 employees across my enterprise. That's a lot of distributed data that now I have to manage and control and make sure I have oversight on. And then I look at it from a BCDR perspective. How do I make sure all of that data that's walking around with all these individuals has some level of business continuity, disaster recovery capability, right? Just in case that device. So these are all the, it's the risk and reward. And this is why I'm interested in having this conversation, because these are the things that go through the mind of a CISO, right?
Correct. Eh, there is no perfect system. You have to leave some time convenience for more reality, which I think it's important. You control. You have to. The product itself keeps mainly your emails, contact, text messages, calendars, all those data out of any structure. So you don't use the cloud anymore to do it. So for a CISO standpoint, it gives you privacy in your own contact. Today, any phone that you have, you need to have the cloud. Me, okay, I have one, but I don't have cloud connected. I've disinstalled all I can have and bring the Android to the lower level of nothing. So there is all this capability. You have all your calendar. Who do you see? What time you go? How do you see? All your emails and your interaction, they need to be out in the infrastructure. Now you want to control. Some people say, oh, we need to control our employee or our people to be able to work. I don't believe in that. You have good elements in the company, they will deliver the work. You don't have good people in the company, they don't deliver the work, which I think it's important that maybe a lot of use in a lot of CISO to try to track salaries, to track people work and so on. I think the work is not on the technology, but more on managing people and bring a higher, more tools to be able to collaborate in little cells, which basically I think it's more important than saying we put everything in the same bag, we all connect it and we get off. So for CISOs, but even for CFOs, all the finance, or everything that needs to be out and in our interest or access to everybody, you use this product to have all that out. Of course, the product itself doesn't only do that. You can put any files. You want to put the keys of your cryptocurrencies inside because there is an NFC chipset. So tomorrow there will be more access to be able to decentralize all your cryptocurrencies. Even key codes for access for CISO. When you have keys that are on your clouds for any types of access, you take them out and you have them, you carry with you. After that, if the hardware is totally secure, it doesn't give you what we have, then you have it. In the mini server, what I created is that the Wi-Fi, the NFC, and the Bluetooth is you disconnect it manually. So the product itself doesn't emit radio frequency. No other product gives this reliability on saying, hey, you want to use the product, but not having any bridge that is open. It's hardware disconnected. It's not software disconnected as we were. That's why we were starting to say, oh, you remember before we could be able to disconnect everything through the hardware. Hardware is a key of any system into security. Build a good hardware, it's always like a house. First base, build it straight. That's the most important. When you know what your base can do and how much power computing do you need, you say, okay, I'm going to use this for, you have a server, you bring it inside the company and you use it. Now the mini server, what it does, it takes out all the information that you want out of that. You want a file that you want to share, you have your file, you come to a meeting, you can share it because it has its own Wi-Fi. It has a mini router into it. There is 4 antennas. So you sat down with your CISO with all your data and your thing. They all connect to a closed network. It creates a mesh, and then everybody get access into a whole encrypted. You can do that anywhere. You can do that in a bunker, in a submarine, in the moon. You can be flying with ET in your bike in the air, or you can do whatever you want. You have it in your and it's being able to develop that. We need to have products today on the market that really gives you a real secure product. You when you buy a car, the manufacturing gives you the security that if you have an accident at any form, you have an airbag, you have ABS, you have all the system that will give you this, and you rely the constructor or anybody in that. In tech industry, we've lost that. Not only as you were saying, Jason, about the pure technology that you have, but most companies, when it comes to have a reliable product to be secure, you don't find this today that give you a warranty. Just for the record, when I build the technology and the company and bring people on the team, I did one thing that was a little experiment with all the people that was coming for asking me for product for, any types of product that I try to sell. And we went to see cloud companies that were coming saying, oh, our ERP and CRM system needs to be on a cloud and blah, blah, blah. And I ask them always one thing. If you want to work with me, you sign a letter. We sign with you from the lawyer where you have my data. If there is any breakthrough into the system, there is any hacking into your system, there is any steal of any types of data, anything, you pay me because you didn't do your job keeping me my data. A lot of CISOs should be able to turn back to their providers and say, hey, I pay you. I give you my data with all the information. You now need to pay me if your system is not good. It's like a car. I give you the warranty that we're going to keep your data totally secure. We do a bad job. You need to know that we are here to pay you because we haven't secured your data. So thanks to that, when I build the technology for any types of people, we all have the problem of the system in it. It's to say, you want to say no to this and you want to keep your most private information with you at any time and have access to it and share it whenever you want. You have a power computer on your wrist. It's not just a wearable. I shrank the kids. Well, it was that. It's really this aspect of, honey, I shrank the computer. It's really a computer. It's a whole shift of the industry where the power, I think tomorrow, the future of technology is that any individual can have a very powerful computer device next to them. And with that, they can do anything they want. They can create network. They can imagine you want to do a math calculation for the moon, your rotation with something in it. You have it, you connect 2 or 3 servers together, and you have 3 power processing to it. Imagine it's like cells. So you have one cell that works, when it's connected, boom, the other one lights up and it starts to work, and so on and so on and so on. And you create a whole ecosystem with little mini servers to it with a closed network. It brings so much flexibility for working aspect, privacy reason, and you never rely on outside. And when you have the power of processing, sharing, you can do whatever you want. Imagine you are in space and you need to do a calculation and you have 2 people all together and you build a program between each mini server and both start to work together to be able to do math calculation. And with a computer, you go and you insert the information inside the computer and you get out. And you have it on your wrist. It changed the whole industry, the phone, how we see servers, and so on. And I don't know, but I think we need to go back to that, and we need to give. It's to the fault of the actual industry. It's today to be able to offer more and more product into the market. That's what the 90s was so great. I don't know how many of you was with BlackBerry, Palm One. When you have Samsung that say, "Oh, we have a pen in our phone," oh, it exists since a long time ago. So what we do is we come back to nothing. Nothing is erased. Everything is rebuilt and we put it on. We come back to what we were doing, that's the fun thing about it.
So. Yeah. So something Jason mentioned earlier would be one of my first concerns. Also, he mentioned business continuity. So availability is really important. If I'm going to put all my data on one device, I want to know that if, like, I was sailing in San Diego about a week and a half ago, if I drop that thing in the ocean, I want to know that all my data isn't gone with it, right? Like what's the plan there?
So after we developed the mini server and it's accessible to the customer, we will give solution to have backups for the product itself, and then that's a future. But right after it, we will develop the base system that is totally transportable. It's really cool stuff. I would like to develop a bit more, but there is a lot of things in it. But it will be so small that you can carry a a lot of power with you. So that way, imagine you have it, it will be very well designed. You have it at home. You come back at home and the mini server automatically do the backup in this base system. And then this base
like a NAS or something like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
But this base system is very well designed. It can be an object. At the same time, it's transportable. So even you want to take it with you, you can take it with you because it has its own battery. We have worked with the mini server, the prototype. It's built and made in the US. And the production and everything will stay here because we need to redevelop just a teeny part of it because I think it's important to. But we need to develop technology in the US and we must to recreate industries here. It's very important. So the mini server and everything is assembled in the US, and we'll do the same with all the base system. So with that, your backup will always be in it. If you lose the mini server, I've designed technology that wipes out the memory in 1 second. So the mini server itself, it's composed with titanium, all the base. We have inside a Faraday cage, but I can't say a bit more about it because it's on process to be patented and so on. But it's impossible to have access to the hardware by itself. So if you try to go and hack the hardware, the whole system wipes out. There is absolutely nothing. It's zero. It's impossible at a hardware level to get access to it because how we gonna assemble the product and close it? It's gonna be IP69, so you can go up to 100 meters. You have high pressure, low pressure, and in one moment, the product itself, it's secure with multiple security system that we added into it at the hardware level and at the software level, and even through the radio frequency. So for a backup system, we have a base system. You carry it. You can even put it in a backpack. You have 100 terabytes, let's say like this. You go walk or relax. You are in a plane or, like you say, in a train, or you move around. You put it on the side. You have the mini server, and you have I don't know, a phone. You have your phone. You have your laptop. You have a family who want to watch a movie, for example, an iPad, because the mini server has an audio. We've partnered with a very important, we can say, but with a very important company that do for cinema and so on for audio systems. So we will have very high level definition system that you can even you connect the Bluetooth to a sound system, and with the Wi-Fi you stream a movie directly into an iPad, and at the same time you're working with your emails directly into it. That's the real power to it. So through that, everything is served on the base system. You keep into it. If the mini server get lost, you have no problem because even at the back, I've designed new system architecture that the consumers do not have, the human don't have any more approach on the security side. We need to disconnect the human aspect on the security side. Why? Because you know better than me how many the list of codes and logins that we have all everywhere. It starts to strike back everywhere. So we need to take off all those problematic and leave the system does the security by itself. So even other architectural system, everything was redesigned into it. So it will take, yeah.
So Guillaume, we just have a few minutes left.
Sorry.
What's the? I just want to make sure we get to like what is the go-to-market plan for this? What is the, is this something you're going to do in like Kickstarter or Indiegogo, or what's the next step for the product?
So now next week we are announcing the demo. So we're going to show all the demo and imagery. There is. We will show all that to show the proof of concept. With that, we're doing a campaign to leverage 40,000 units. Why? Because we want a company that being independent as a company. We have today we have 25 partners at the back. All what you're going to see has been done with no money. Believe it or not, the chipset, building the motherboard, building is because we went to see big names of big companies or manufacturing in chipset component and really to tell them, this is the idea. We want to keep this production and the technology and the development here in the United States of America. You know what they were saying? They were, oh, that's so cool. That's so cool. But there's no investor in it. That's so cool. We want to work with you. And believe me, it was like they gave me the chipset and say, okay, how many do you need? So that's how we work. So now we have the whole manufacturing, the team. We have 15 people, 7 going to relocate in Washington, D.C., people that has been in very high level of security, so they know what we're talking about. We're not talking about those corporate people. Those people all come from military standpoint and security encryption. And then with that, we want to have 40,000 early adopters that give us the chance to develop to bring the finance, build the product, build the team, and get it onto it, and release them. Not only that, but a product that is totally personalized. Discount that would be only for them. New products, only access to them, and we have a lot of surprise for them to be able to do that. So that's how we're going to do it, because we want to bring back privacy to the people. We want a power tool to own your data. That's the really point of it, and we want to create a new paradigm in the industry where today we can go after those people. Really, we want to really change that and give a hardware tool for the people to realize that technology can be used for the humanity. We can develop technology for people, not to use them against them or know everything about them. And I think the industry can go way more beyond and create new technology that will make a massive jump for humanity, and new concept and maybe new product that will go around and give a new fresh technology, because iPhone 17, it's the same that the iPhone 1. So that's sorry, I see the time.
Yeah. Guillaume, thank you so much for joining us today on Business Security Weekly.
Thank you so much for everyone, and happy to be there.
Stay tuned. When we come back, we've got some leadership and communications articles to discuss. Welcome back to Business Security Weekly. Now for this week's leadership and communications articles. You can check out securityweekly.com/BSW414 if you want to follow along as we go through the news, or for links to the articles that we're covering. All right, Jason, kicking off here. I think this is, I have some theories here, but really interested to hear your take
about this first article, right? So yeah, I mean, the first article, fewer CISOs feel aligned with their boards on cybersecurity this year. So the one thing
as opposed to last year.
Yeah.
What's happened?
So here's the one thing I pulled out of it, right? It says that it's a downtick from the 84% of CISOs who felt aligned with their board on cybersecurity in 2024. I'm going to call BS on 84%, Adrian. I'm just going to say that, right? Because in no way, shape, or form do I think 84% felt like they were aligned with their board of directors, especially, all of the different articles and studies and research that we cover on this show weekly. In no way, shape, or form do I think 84% of CISOs felt aligned with their boards in 2024.
So my take is a bit different, and the thing I saw, and it kind of aligns around AI and some of the hype and growth around AI, where I remember, I think it was 2023, everyone was piloting Microsoft Copilot. Nobody was using it in production. It was just all experimentation and testing. Then same time in 2024, say March 2023 to March 2024. Every single, and this is just experience working with IONS, where I'm doing advisory calls all week long, all year long. So I talk to hundreds of companies a year, and it's all been AI governance. How do we make sure this thing is secure? How do we make sure it doesn't go off the rails? Very broad, general, like we're overwhelmed, we don't know what to do, kinds of conversations. And 100%. Using Microsoft Copilot in production a year later. All of a sudden, nobody has it in pilot. Nobody's just experimenting. Everybody's just jumped in both feet. And even the most conservative companies I can think of, that I can imagine, that I'm talking to, their board, their execs have just jumped in just wholeheartedly into agentic and all this stuff. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking here. That's the most noticeable difference I've seen between 2024 and 2025 is just about every company. Like I feel like there's some of these companies I'm talking to are obvious laggards, like are late adopters, but they're jumping in. So here's where I'm gonna because words to me matter, right? And it says CISOs felt aligned with their boards. So what I'm finding now is in organizations that
have adopted Copilot within the last, let's call it 12 to 18 months. We're having conversations now around after the fact securing their data landscape because it was not part of the conversation originally when they were implementing, or they didn't have funding, or they didn't have focus because the board of directors, the CEOs, and the other folks in the C-suite wanted AI adoption now, immediately. Go, go, go. Make it happen.
Yeah.
And now what we're doing, kind of like what happened with cloud, we're going back now after the fact and saying, oh no, we need to go tie all these loose ends up with controls, data classification, right? Data tagging. Now we're going back and securing the data landscape after the fact. But what does that expose those organizations to from a risk perspective over the course of the last year and a half or so? What that tells me is boards were having conversations with CISOs like, we're doing this. I don't know if they were aligned, because I can almost guarantee you the CISOs were having an oh crap moment because they know behind the scenes that their data landscape wasn't fully secure to support AI within their organization, right? So that's what I've been seeing now after the fact, kind of trailing security now is kind of a conversation that they're having because they're realizing we adopted AI and we really didn't secure in the entirety of our data landscape.
And speaking of going back and buttoning all that down, the next story is about insurance policies.
Yeah,
and
right.
I have not seen any questionnaires in the last year or two. I don't know what they're looking like. I don't know how quickly cyber insurance companies and policies are adjusting to AI and the extra.
I mean, I would say it depends, right? Because I've seen both sides of the aisle. I've seen some insurance organizations getting very, very mature, and their diligence process before they bring on a client is a very detailed one between questionnaires and conversations and things of that nature. But then you still have some insurance organizations who are just like they were 10 years ago. Hey, fill out these 10 questions and, we'll move you along for your policy. I'm seeing that as well. But there are insurance organizations who are starting to really ramp up the maturity when it comes to assessing risk, for their clients. So, I'm gonna make the assumption that that's just going to continue to mature, and you're going to have more and more insurance organizations doing the diligence that they need. I really like this article though, because this article basically took the stance of, hey, CISOs, you should be looking at insurance as another arm of the organization that augments your organization, and you need to be really involved. You need to understand the underwriting logic. You need to understand the gaps between insurance and your cybersecurity program. You need to manage your policy actively. Be reviewing. Sit at the table when your policies are being reviewed by your legal officer or your risk officer, whoever the case may be. Be part of that conversation and make sure that insurance is involved in your incident response testing and tabletops and planning and making sure it's part of that. So I really liked how they took that, partnership, let's call it, and said to CISOs, you got to step up your game with that relationship because it's an important piece. It's a quiver. It's an arrow in your quiver, for your program. So I like that article in that aspect.
Me too. And what seems unique to me, I don't know any other area of insurance where you're encouraged to actively work with your policy provider. Agreed. Right. Like most of it, there's, you get a health checkup up front, you get health insurance, you fill out a questionnaire, you get insurance, and you don't talk to them again until it's time to renew that policy. Right. And you talk about whether or not the policy's going up. But here with cyber insurance, like we see all these insurtechs where they have real-time controls where they're monitoring your security, where you open up RDP to the internet, they see it immediately. They're calling you up saying, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing over there?
Yeah. I mean, a lot, I've seen insurance companies now working with some of these external scanning companies where they're looking at your risk profile and scanning your organization right from the outside. So
like a BitSite security scorecard,
exactly those guys, exactly. That's exactly it. And I think from an insurance perspective, they had to. I mean, for years they were just getting it handed to them with ransomware, right? Payments and things of that nature, where they had to go in and do the payout to their clients. So they were losing money there for a hot minute with all the ransomware going around, and their policies weren't tight enough. So they had to step it up in this area. There's too much risk for the insurance organizations.
And the next story here, I have no idea how Matt would make a smooth segue from story 2 to story 3 here. But story 3 is the CISO role broken? I feel like we had a little bit of a segue from number 1 to number 3.
Yeah.
Because there was one of the quotes here is, some CISOs may say, well, I'm not that special anymore. I'm here all the time. I'm a member of the woodwork. Just like the rest of the people that are members of the woodwork. Yeah. So it's I don't know. I feel like you guys probably talk about this every episode.
Yeah, I mean, we do talk about this a lot, right? Because, we're constantly having conversations around the evolution of what the CISO role means in the business these days, right? And we've gone everywhere from, the CISO needs to be elevated, obviously, with the stance of reporting to the CEO, reporting to the board at the highest strategic levels, all the way down to, we're seeing this mass exodus of CISOs who are transitioning to become virtual CISOs and consultants, and because of all the legal risk around it and liability,
lower liability CISOs, we could call
exactly, right? All that liability around it. We've covered articles that are, and this article covers it a little bit. Should you take the CISO role and split it and have, a chief risk officer and a security officer and a CISO and all these other roles? And, looking at this article, it actually says in here, splitting the role is the only way, right? So now I sit back and my argument to that was, there isn't a CEO alive who wants to make his C-suite larger. There isn't one. They're constantly looking at ways of slimming down their direct reports. So if we do this, that just creates another tier of filter between the security leader and the CEO, if we start splitting these roles out. And it actually,
how many companies are big enough to make a split at this level?
Exactly. Yeah. And the other side of it too is, who's going to be accountable and responsible? You're going to have multiple C-levels. I mean, this article goes in and says you should have a formal chief security officer. That is the leadership of the team, all the business protection, really handles the business of security and compliance and risk and things of that nature. Then you should have a CISO, right? A chief information security officer. And they can be returned to their native technical responsibilities. Well, I sit back and I say to myself, does that person report to the CEO as well? Does that person report to the chief security officer?
No, they report to the chief risk officer.
Right. I mean, who do they report to?
Who reports to the CFO? So now you have like 4 levels of executives.
Exactly it. So I personally don't see that as something. It's creating more red tape, more bureaucracy, and more of a filter between security strategy and the C-suite and the board. I am not an advocate of that. I'm an advocate of the better that the business and the leaders in the business and the board can understand risk within the organization, the better. Yeah. So I think splitting it out is going to create a whole other set of issues.
I often use, because even when we talk about big companies, I often use Home Depot as an example here. Very large company, well over $100 billion in revenue every year. And if you go to their corporate website, they list over 40 different executives. And you can't even guess who a CISO would fall under in that list. Like there's nothing even approaching privacy, security, risk management, any of that. Like the general counsel, that's as close as you get as legal.
Yeah, right. The article is called "Is the CISO Role Broken?" and I would change that. And if I were to write this article, it would be more along the lines of, is the relationship between the board, CEO, and the CISO broken? Yeah, that's where it's broken, right? It's the trust factor, the relationship, the importance of what cybersecurity is to the business. That's where it's broken, and we need to fix that, because I understand it. A lot of CISOs are walking into board meetings speaking technical jargon, which you can't. You have to be speaking to the business. You have to be talking about how you're affecting revenue, how you're preserving customer satisfaction and customer security, how you're bringing in bringing in new client bases. I tell the story all the time.
How you're closing deals.
How you're helping close deals, right? That's it right there, Adrian. Because, for the longest time, My team, when I was an acting CISO, my team would actually have a field and sales force that they would be able to tag with the cybersecurity tag. That was every single deal that we influenced by talking to the CISO, by talking to the chief risk officer, by having conversations around how we are secure, therefore we'll be a secure partner. We were influencing $14 million a quarter just as a security team. Those are the conversations we need to be having with boards and CEOs, right? We also have to be talking about reduced business risk. So yes, we need to mature from our relationship side, but I think that relationship is broken. And I think it can be fixed. And adding more bodies and more filters between is not the fix at all.
I do agree that the breadth of the role, it just keeps growing, and, it seems like it's too much to me. So I wonder if talking about splitting the role, what if we're not actually splitting the role, but splitting the responsibilities of the role into existing positions? What would that look like?
100%.
You know, would CTO, CIO take on some, like, if we talk about vulnerability management, you know, nothing seems, you know, less appropriate for security, except from maybe like a reporting standpoint, to be dealing with, you know, because they have absolutely no access to systems, no control over when things get patched. I mean, they can say, you know, that this is something, you know, maybe they trigger that process where it's a 0 day and everybody drops everything and updates it, right? You know, but that maybe happens a half dozen times a year. You know, people can correct me here these days. I don't know how often you're using effectively like an IR process to go patch something super fast, but.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it like a RACI chart, right? There are folks who are going to be responsible, folks who are going to be accountable, consulted, and informed. And I think if you take all the responsibilities of a CISO and you look at everything that should fall under, you can start delegating things out. Even though the CISO could be accountable for the overall or responsible for the overall outcome, other people could be responsible for the delivery, right? And you can start working it through that way. It's, you know, we joke about it all the time, but cybersecurity has to be a team effort. It can't just be siloed to the security team. It can't. You'll never be successful.
Yeah. Yeah. And that kind of, that's a good segue into the next discussion here is when is the right time to hire a CISO? And in the past, I might have viewed the title of this article as, okay, we're talking about new companies growing, building, maturing until they need a CISO. But I've also seen very mature companies who had a chief security officer, chief information security officer, get rid of them and not hire back another one and decide actually that's something we don't really feel like we need here. So I feel like we can have the conversation at that level as well. Yeah,
like
I mean, maybe never. Maybe the answer is never. It's such a complicated
conversation, though. It's such a complicated conversation because there's so many dependencies, right? I mean, there's the budget
so
dependency.
Many factors.
There's the culture dependency. There are all these different things. Here's what I will say. There is a tipping point for every organization where you need a security professional involved in your business, whether it's through a partner, a virtual CISO, or a direct hire. But there's a time where you need a security professional supporting your organization to make sure you're building a program. That's the key. What form or shape it comes in, that's really up to your business. And
does a quarterly assessment, does a VCISO satisfy that, or do you need somebody?
No, I think it's somebody ingrained in the business. That's why I said partner, right? It's a partner. Right. It's somebody, you know, they're a virtual CISOs who are assigned to organizations, and they're not working 40 hours a week for the organization, but maybe they're working 20, right? But they're involved, they understand, they're dedicated to that organization. And they're learning the risk profile, they're learning the culture, they're learning the business goals, and you know, and some organizations may not be able to afford a CISO right out of the gate. And I think a virtual CISO is a great way to dip your toe in the water until you have the budget to be able to hire your own person.
And then who's the right person to make that call too? Because, you know, if you ask a cobbler when's the right time to buy a new pair of shoes, they're going to sell you a pair of shoes. And security people are going to tell 100%. You everybody needs a CISO, right?
Again, I think this is where the board and the C-suite really need to be paying attention to risk within their organization. And they have to understand the risks that are out there and be able to say, you want to know what? We don't have the risk appetite to not have someone focused on this. That's where the decision has to come to.
Yeah.
It has to come from
because
that team.
I still see a lot of rhetoric that security is the number one most important thing to businesses, right?
And do something about it.
Yeah. I mean, to some companies, maybe it should be, but to most companies, I feel like maybe it's not even on the top 10.
I agree. When it comes to spending money, it's not. When it comes to answering a survey, it might be. But when it comes to actually putting money where their mouth is, a lot of times they don't want to invest the money.
And then story number 5, this is something I'm dealing with on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I don't have a good answer here. Again, this is something that has so many factors. I do have some kind of hot takes here about AI agents. I think we are deep in experimentation phase here. Yeah. And I do a whole talk on this where I give recommendations on how to figure out where to use AI agents and where to use generative AI within your business. But it is going to require some experimentation. But I think most organizations, and this is before we even get to security, don't understand what their employees do, right? No, there's all this confusion between what's a task and what's a job. You know, a job may include many tasks, or your job may just be one task. Like I saw one company complaining that they were having to shut down because they did language translation services. And AI is just too good now. And that's a single task company. But if you're a developer, like people are conflating writing code with being a software engineer, right? And you go and talk to software engineers and they're like, I write code maybe once a week, maybe a couple times a day, like maybe it's 10% of what I do. Yeah. So I think there's some misunderstanding there of what AI can do and can't do.
And I mean, even with some of the ability for AI to write code, I don't know if you saw the news lately, but there's this whole movement now of vibe code fixers. They're coming in and they're starting businesses around saying, all right, you're going to have AI develop code for you. You're going to need us because we're going to have to come in and secure the code, make sure there's, we got to do quality assurance on the code, make sure there's no bugs, do bug fixes on the code. Then we need to go support it after for you. Right. So there's a whole industry coming out now to support the fact that AI generated code has a lot of issues.
Yeah. Yeah. There's products out there right now and open source as well. So DARPA had a whole challenge around where basically they said, okay, you have to have a self-contained system that both finds vulnerabilities and writes the fixes and implements the fixes for the vulnerabilities without any kind of human interaction. Yeah, and they did a pretty impressive job, right? And I think that's one of the most exciting things here is the idea that AI can just vanish backlogs. It's something that's never been possible in the software industry before. Right. We always have backlogs. We always have those things that move to the next sprint. Yep. Every sprint, they move to the next sprint. They never quite, make the priority list.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we're down the highway. This isn't going to stop. It's just going to keep maturing. It's going to keep progressing. And, I look at it this way. It gives us the ability to shift work left at the end of it, right? We can take work and now some of the things that our junior developers would be doing and some of our mid-level developers are doing, we have AI do it now, right? So it's giving us the ability to shift left. Now my more senior folks are doing quality assurance and they're looking at it. And, so what we used to do with interns and brand new employees, now we don't need to hire the bodies around it anymore. We have these AI engines that can do it for us, but you still need that human element involved. Absolutely 100% need the human element.
And my concern with the human element, I saw something that was saying like the average pull request, for some of these vibe coding, like using AI agents to build features, implement features and stuff like that is like 10,000 lines, 12,000 lines per pull request, like these huge rewrites and new code that's going into repos. And And it seems like we're going to get to a point where the only way we can interact with stuff at this scale is using AI itself. Like
Sure.
no more
Yeah.
will a human, because of the speed that we're making changes, but also
Right.
just the quantity of code in there.
Yeah.
So that's something I worry about a little bit is now how we interface with code. It's not going to be a manual code
Right.
review where you're actually going line by line. It's going to be interacting through prompts.
Right.
So now you're going to have to relearn how to use AI prompting to do a code review.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Using AI for code review for code that AI built.
Yeah. I was reading a story about a guy that laid off all his engineers, and it's a startup, it's a very specific scenario. But he was able to iterate so much faster because his engineering team was in Germany and he was in the US. He was in San Francisco. And that meant constantly waiting because of time zone separation. And his approach I thought was interesting. He says when he goes to write new code for his product, he has it build the tests that must be passed before it writes any of the code for the feature.
Oh, wow.
And I thought that was a very...
That makes sense. That actually makes a lot of sense, to be honest.
Which is funny because that's, from a software engineering standpoint, it feels kind of backwards.
Yeah,
right.
Yep.
But using AI, it makes sense because once you have the test, and the test is where you need it to be, then you don't have to, then you can let it go off and do something while you sleep.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
You get that human touch point out of the way and then let it go do stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
All right. Last story here. My feelings on my feelings on salaries, how to network, just progressing through career has changed so much as my own career has changed and I've gotten older. But yeah, I still salty, from the times when you had to, I worked with a guy, he was the head of the networking team, back when I worked for a large payment processor, Chuck Beeler. And, Chuck is a very smart man. He left, went to a consulting company. He left as a director, came back as a senior director. Yep. Then he, like a year or two later, he left, came back as a VP. Right.
Yep.
with this huge salary bump every time. And we used to joke oh, if you want a raise, you got to move to a new company. You got to get a new job. and cause it wouldn't even keep up with inflation. I remember, pitching my boss, once at one of those jobs. And the way I pitched is I was like, look, when I started working here 4 years ago, in the snack machine, a Snickers bar was 50 cents. Now it's $1 a quarter. And here, so, the price of a Snickers bar has gone up this much, and here's how much my salary has changed. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I look at it this way, whether it's internally negotiating a promotion or a raise or a position in another department, or if it's you're leaving an organization for your next journey, I think the items that they hit here are important, right? So number one, your network is extremely important, and it's something you need to cultivate, right? Whether it's your network locally with professionals and peers in your industry, or whether it's folks through LinkedIn or any other type of consortiums you can be part of or conferences that you attend. Build a strong network, build trust with people. That's how you can go out and find new opportunities, get people to vouch for you, really leverage that network to your advantage. So building relationships and building trust is huge for your career, no matter what, internal, external.
Yeah, agreed.
Leadership skills are incredibly important. My son is 14 years old. He's a soccer player, and he was just named captain of his JV team. And I had the conversation with him because I want to teach him leadership skills young. I said, that's not just an armband that you wear. That has responsibilities. You need to build relationships with the team. You need to help the team when they need you. You need to be there for them. You need to be there for them. Teach them, guide them, help them, right? If they need you. So building leadership skills for me is something you have to really flex the muscle on. And I've said it on the show before. It doesn't matter where you are in the org chart. It doesn't matter what your title is. You can lead. You can be a leader. So it's very important.
So I was going to make that point. You know, like some people might be looking at this and thinking, "Oh, but I'm not interested in management." But you still need confidence to convince people that this is the right direction to move in. You might have to lead a project, right? You might have to lead and manage your own project. Like a lot of I think the most satisfying, a lot of things that a lot of people get out of their jobs come from, a battle that they've had to make to go in the right direction, right?
Absolutely.
You know, they have to put together, and there are courses just for this, like how to make a business case for the direction that you think something needs to go in. And,
100%.
And you don't have to be a manager for that to be useful.
No, not at all. And that goes, Tom, to the next one, because I actually made a note here. The last note is negotiating raises effectively. And I took the word raises out of it because I think you need to just be able to negotiate effectively, right? Yeah. No matter what, whether it's influence a project, influence an initiative, influence a change, you need to be able to do that. And going through here where they say, you really need to do your research. You need to have measurable results that you can deliver. Timing is an important factor. Having flexibility is an important factor. Those are all really important things. But at the end of the day, you need to be good at negotiating. It's not just about the money. It's about the outcomes.
I think for me, the one weird trick here is if you're really good at personal finance and you have a lot of savings and you can float until you find the next job, I think it makes negotiation a lot easier if you're not living paycheck to paycheck.
Agreed, right? 100% agreed.
like if you're ready to just walk out that door, like that comes across. Like hey, I want to work for this company. I see people stay in just the most toxic positions. Just sticking it out, working the equivalent of 4 full-time jobs. Just way too long because they can't afford to just leave.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's the hard part, right? But all of these skills can translate for them looking for their next best opportunity, right? And I know it's a slug out there. It's hard. It's tough. But having these skills and be able to shine in these areas will help you get to that next position that hopefully you're invested in and they're invested in you and it's a better scenario.
And good luck to anyone going down that road. Thanks, Jason, so much for joining me today. Very much enjoyed talking through all the articles here with you.
Same. Great to have you back on.
Big thanks to everyone watching or listening to this week's episode of Business Security Weekly. Matt is going to be back next week.